Hi guys, welcome back to Papa Mark's Place. I am super excited today because I have something very special to share with you. For many of you that know me, I was the bagel guy in the grocery store for well over 10 years. We made these delicious, made from scratch New York style bagels. And I got thinking I have a cooking channel. I should probably make some bagels. Now, full disclosure, this recipe I'm going to show you is not actual New York style bagels because I don't have all the ingredients in the house, and honestly I'm too lazy to go to the store right now. I also got thinking and thought, maybe the viewers don't have these ingredients either, so instead of making you go to the store and buy something specific, I'm going to make it from a recipe of ingredients that you probably already have in your kitchen as it is. It's not really that difficult, and when it comes to bagels, the recipe is tricky, but it's not so much tricky as the method. That's what's important. That's what can really trip you up. So I thought I would tell you all about the bagels now, and then we'll go in the kitchen and I'll show you how to do it. My friend Melanie, honey, if you're watching, I'm dedicating this show specifically to you. You are going to start with 3/4 cups of water. Should be about 100 degrees. You're going to use 1 3/4 teaspoons of yeast, 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You do not want bread flour or self-rising flour because those two have leavening agents in them, like baking soda or baking powder. And bagels don't have that. And if you put it in with yeast, it's going to make them too light and puffy and fluffy, and that's not what we're going for. You're also going to use a 1/2 tablespoon of sugar, plain old white sugar, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Now, here comes the tricky part. As I said, you need 3/4 cups of water at about 100 degrees. Take about 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup, doesn't have to be exact. Mix your sugar in there really well and make sure it's dissolved. Then you're going to add your yeast. Just sprinkle it on the top, let it sit for about a minute or so, stir it up a little bit, and cover that up. Doesn't matter, you can use a plate or paper towel, whatever. Piece of saran wrap will work too, but like I said, just set a plate on top of it. Set that aside. Then you're going to take 1 cup of your flour, put it in a mixing bowl. Take the other cup and put it aside. In the mixing bowl, once your yeast is risen and it's getting foamy and fluffy, after about 2 or 3 minutes, just lift the lid, you'll see it. Dump that into your 1 cup of flour. Mix this really well. It's going to be kind of sloppy and mushy and sticky, but that's okay. That's because you have too much water and you don't have enough flour. But you're going to put that in there in a minute. This is what's important. You're going to take the remaining ingredients, which is your salt and the last 1 cup of flour. Mix them together in the bowl really well. You don't want to put the salt in with your liquid and your yeast because salt and yeast do not like each other and they won't rise right. So you're going to take the remaining flour with the salt mixed in it, and now you're going to add that to your bowl and you're going to mix it and you're going to keep mixing it, and it's going to get crumbly. I'll show you, like I said in the video. At that point, you're going to dump it out onto the counter or your bench, whatever you want to call it, with a little bit of flour. And you're going to knead it. That's the hardest part of this recipe. You're going to knead it for at least 5 or 10 minutes. Then you're going to let it sit in a bowl covered with saran wrap or a kitchen towel in a warm place and let it rise. So after probably, it depends on how warm your house is and the time of the year and whatnot, but about maybe 20 minutes or so, you're going to check it. If it's ready, you're going to dump it out on the board. You're going to cut it into 4 pieces, equal pieces. You're going to weigh them out so they'll be exactly the same size. Then you're going to form your bagels. You're going to set them on a tray, cover them up so they don't dry out, and you're going to set them in the refrigerator for a few minutes. In the meantime, you're going to get a kettle of water boiling on your stove, and you're going to get your toppings ready. And at that point, you're ready to make your bagels. You're going to boil them And after you boil them, you're going to take them out and you're going to put them in the oven. What boiling does is it makes like a sticky, almost film on the outside of the bagels. So when you put them in the oven, that outside coating starts to brown and crisp up and gets nice and crunchy, but the inside stays nice and moist and chewy. That's what a New York style bagel is like. So I wanted to tell you how to make these before we hit the kitchen. So once I hit the kitchen, we can just keep moving along and you won't have to go, oh, how much flour did he use? How much yeast? And so on. So with that out of the way, let's get to the kitchen and get making bagels. Okay, so we're in the kitchen. Now, like I said, you're going to start with 2 cups of flour. You're going to put them in 2 separate bowls. You're going to set one aside. This one you're going to use for your yeast mixture. As I said, you need water that is about 110 degrees to 100 degrees, roughly. Get yourself a temperature probe, and as you see, this is rising. This is about fine. So, you're going to take your sugar, pour that in your water. Mix it up really well. Make sure it's nice and dissolved. And then you're going to pour in your yeast. Let that sit on top for a minute. As I said, you can go ahead and mix this up really well. Cover it to keep the heat inside. And again, set this aside. Next, you're going to take the 1 cup of flour you set aside. You're going to pour your salt in there. And again, you're going to mix this really, really, really well. Again, set that aside. And you're going to let your yeast sit for about a minute or 2 until it gets foamy. After a minute or 2, see how your yeast is getting all clumpy and foamy? That's okay, it's supposed to do that. You're going to dump it into the bowl without the salt. Remember, salt and yeast don't like each other, so you don't want to mix them together because the salt will retard your yeast and your bagels won't come out right. And we can't have that. Scrape the inside here. And then mix this mixture. This is flour, sugar, and yeast. It's basically a starter, really. It's like a bread starter. As I said, it's kind of messy and sloppy, but that's because you don't have enough flour in it, and that's all right. Again, the salt and the flour, the rest of the flour are over there in the other bowl. We set it aside. You mix this together really, really well. Okay. Now you can take your flour with your salt in it, and you're going to mix your yeast mixture into that. Scrape it all out so you get all of the yeast. Baking is very important, so you got to have exact amounts of things. Set that aside, and you're going to mix this and keep mixing this until you form basically a rough ball of dough. Like I said, it's going to be kind of raggedy, and after a while it's going to get hard to mix, but you want to get most of the moisture mixed in with your flour. Resist the temptation to add water. It looks dry, but bagel dough is kind of dry. As I said, don't add any water unless I tell you to, and I'm telling you right now, don't. Now you see it's gotten kind of craggy and crummy. So this is where we're going to take it and we're going to dump it out onto the floured counter, and we're going to knead it the rest of the way by hand. Now you do not need to add flour to your bench because you have a lot of flour right here in there that has not mixed in. And if you add more flour, it's going to mess up your recipe. Just dump the loose flour there. And like I said before, you're going to knead this. Just keep kneading it and keep mixing in all this extra flour. You're going to do this till it forms a nice clean ball of dough. As I said, you're going to knead this for about 5 or 10 minutes. It might be a little sticky, But once you get all of the flour mixed in, it won't be. So just keep mixing it. Look at your timer, look at your clock in your kitchen, whatever, and time it. It doesn't have to be exact, but about 5 or 10 minutes. Basically, you're going to keep kneading this until the stickiness from the dough goes away. And the dough is going to get nice and smooth and elasticy. Like I said, this is the very hard part, I think. I have trouble kneading things by hand because it takes a lot of work. And I get winded, but it's okay. You just keep mixing this. Of course, I'm not going to make you watch me knead dough for 5 minutes, but you're going to keep kneading it by folding it over, and then folding it over again, folding it over again. As you see, the dough's kind of lumpy and bumpy, so you know it's not ready yet. So you're just going to keep mixing it until that goes away, and it'll get nice and smooth, like a ball of pizza dough would be. Just keep mixing it, keep kneading it, keep folding it in on itself. That's how you knead dough. Just keep folding it over and pushing pressure on it. And before you know it, you're going to have this beautiful little ball of dough. As you see, it picked up all the extra flour that was there in the ball, and you didn't need to add any. And as you see, you didn't need to add any water either. If you added water, your dough wouldn't come out right. So we're going to keep mixing it, and keep kneading it, mixing, kneading, mixing, kneading. You know, I guess I am going to make you watch me. Sorry. It doesn't take that long. I can tell by the feel of it when it's ready, but you can tell this by looking at it. They said when it starts to get nice and smooth, like with a pizza dough ball, you're going to form it into a ball. Nice, tight, round little ball. And then you're going to put it back in your bowl. You're going to cover it up with a kitchen towel or some saran wrap. I like to use saran wrap. Make sure it's covered really well because you don't want it to dry out. Alright. Now, you're going to let this sit in a warm place. And we'll check back in probably about 10-20 minutes, and we'll see how our dough's doing. All right, we are back. Let's check our dough. Look at that. That is risen very nicely. It's a little sticky, but that's okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to dump this out onto the board, or in this case, our counter. You can tell by the feel it's a lot lighter now, and you can feel the air in it. Now, what you want to do is we're going to punch what they call punching it down, which is just degassing it and letting all the air out of it. I know you just made air by letting it rise, but this is what you're going to do. I want you to roll it out in an even log, so it's just about the same size. Then you're going to cut it in half, and then in each piece in half again. Take your scale. If you don't have a scale, you absolutely don't have to have one. You can go ahead and eyeball it. I just like to do it so they're uniform, and I got the habit of doing it when I was in the bakery. It's 4.2. That's 3.8. 5.2. And 3.3. So 3.3. Let's break a little off. That's 3.7. There we see. There's 3.7. That one's 3.9. Whoops. one over, but that's okay. That's 5.3. That's 3.8. 3.8. We'll add 1 here. 3.8. And last but not least, 3.8. Watch. 3.9. Close enough. Okay? And you can take that last little bit of dough that you got left, if you have any, and just chop it up evenly, like I said, amongst 4. It doesn't have to be exact, but pretty close. This way all your bagels will be the same size. There. Now, roll these out, each one so they're in the same shape. There's a couple different ways to shape bagels, but I like to do it this way. What putting them in the refrigerator does is it slows down the rising process of the yeast so they won't overproof. Saran wrap just keeps the dough nice and moist and pliable. While you have your oven heating up and your water boiling, this is where you can make your toppings. Today I'm doing 2 cinnamon sugar and 2 plain. Use whatever you want as far as the amount of cinnamon, but keep in mind cinnamon in the oven will burn. So if you use too much, it's going to make the top of your bagels look all dark and burned, and they're going to taste not so great. And you don't want to do that. So I've got about a cup of sugar here, and I'm going to put maybe, probably about a tablespoon of cinnamon. I'm using Chinese 5-spice here because I love it. It's got a really nice floral flavor, and it's got a lot of nice ingredients to it, so I thought it would be nice on a bagel. So I'm just going to, like I said, eyeball it. You don't have to measure. Cinnamon sugar, you can tell by the look of it if there's enough. If your cinnamon sugar still looks really white like that, add some more. You want it to be tan, almost the color of sand. There. I'm adding extra because I'm using 5-spice, which has a lot more than the cinnamon in it. 5-spice has, I'm not even sure what the spices are in there anymore. But cinnamon's one of them, ginger. It's really good. Like I said, it's good, but it's expensive. And now we have our coating ready. So all we got to do now is wait for our water to boil and our oven to get up to temp, and we can make our bagels. Okay, moment of truth. We have our bagels out and uncover them. You want to make sure your water is boiling profusely, which it is. So, what you're going to do is you're going to gently pick up your bagels. Do them one at a time so you can keep track and check them. You're going to wait exactly 30 seconds on each side. Put your cover back on so you keep all your heat inside your pan. 5, 10. Yeah, I'm going to make you wait while I boil them. It only takes a second, but you need to see how they're done because that's one of the most important parts of making bagels, is boiling them. If you don't boil them right, they don't come out right. There, 30 seconds. Flip it over. Wait another 30 seconds. Now, these bagels, I'm doing 2 plain and 2 cinnamon sugar. So, these first 2, I'm not going to put anything on at all. When they're ready, fish them out. Oop, that fell apart. Set it down. Pick up your bagel. It is going to be hot, so watch out. This one will form back together. It's not a big deal if it does that. Put the next one in. Again, watch the clock. Exactly 30 seconds. Don't go more, because if you go more, they're going to overproof and your bagels won't come out right. You know, when I used to do this at the grocery store, I used to dance and sing and do all kinds of things to occupy my time. You'd be amazed how long it takes for 30 seconds to go by. And then when you're doing a lot of them, we used to do dozens of them at a time. Flip again. And we're almost ready. You can make any kind of toppings that your little heart desires. Everything bagels, garlic bagels, onion bagels, cinnamon bagels. As I said, keep in mind the more cinnamon you use, the more chance you have of them burning when you put them in the oven. And that's a bad thing. Oops, these are all coming apart. Alright. Let's do 2 at once because we're fancy. Like I said, I used to do 12 at a time. Cover them. Now these last 2, like I said, are going to be cinnamon sugar. We have that set right here. And of course, like I said, we have our oven preheated to 500. Again, for you new people, if you don't know what preheating means, it just means turning your oven on at the temperature you're going to cook at and letting it sit until it warms up so it's ready when the food's ready to go in it. Alright, we got to turn our bagels again. Wait another 30 seconds. Alright! Shut the burner off because I only got 4 bagels. Take this one out. And we'll take this one out. Oh, these stayed together nicely. Put it face down in your cinnamon sugar. Shake it all around. And then set it on your tray. Again. Shake it all around. Set it on your tray. And there you have it. We're going to put these in a 500-degree oven for about 10 minutes and wait until they're ready. I can smell it already. I can't wait. Okay. After about 20 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we come out with. Lovely, beautiful bagels. Now, like I said, cinnamon sugar tends to burn easily, so we're going to try and take these off right now. And I put them on the rack. This is a rack from my air fryer, actually. This way, all the burned sugar on the tray does not stick to the bagels and ruin them. Put them there. You want to take them off the sheet and cool them on a rack. Because the sheet's hot and it'll continue to cook and you'll end up with burned bagels, and you don't want to do that. This is an old rack I saved off of a grill, actually. My plane. Aren't they beautiful? They came apart, but that doesn't really matter. But my friends, this is what you will end up with when you're finished. Some beautiful, delicious, fresh-made, homemade bagels. I guarantee you'll love them. Try them. They're wonderful. With the holidays coming up, it's a perfect surprise for your family. And they'll look at you and go, wow, I didn't know you know how to make bagels. These are awesome. Make some more. Just be careful because people are going to like them and they're going to want you to make them all the time. With that said, folks, I'm going to eat one and go watch the news. And I'll see you next time. Have a great one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notify button for the next video that I do. And as always, I thank you. Peace.